Welcome to the Inventor's Edge podcast, where insight meets innovation. Whether you're sketching your first idea or refining a finished product, you're in the right place. Our mission is to equip you with the tools, expertise, and clarity you need to succeed as an inventor, while helping you conquer fears and limiting beliefs that may be holding you back. I'm your host, Scott Putnam, founder and CEO of Inventor's Edge. Before becoming a seasoned product development coach, I was a wide-eyed inventor with a head full of ideas but no clear path forward. I know firsthand what it's like to feel stuck, uncertain, and overwhelmed. Fast forward to today, I'm a successful entrepreneur with multiple licensing deals and products on the market. I'm committed to helping inventors like you overcome obstacles, conquer fears, and transform your ideas into tangible success through proven, actionable, step-by-step strategies that deliver real results. Join us as we bring in industry pros, share expert advice, and dive deep into the world of innovation. Ready to turn your ideas into reality? Let's get started. I'm incredibly excited about today's guest, Thelen, because not only is she a powerhouse creative across so many fields, but she's also someone I had the privilege of coaching on her invention journey. Tara is a product developer, open source innovator, writer, editor, translator, and visual artist with over 23 years of experience turning ideas into practical and beautiful realities. And throughout our time working together, she overcame a lot of fear and hesitation with courage and determination, and was truly a joy to coach. She went on to license her product, the handy gourmet easy scoop kitchen sink strainer, to Joe Bar International, and now it's out in the world in retail and on Amazon. From the written word to product design and visual storytelling, Tara brings soul and skill to everything she does. I can't wait for you to hear her story. Let's dive in. Hey, Tara, welcome to the show.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Hi, it's so good to see you again.
Hey, thanks for being here. I'm so excited to talk to you, and I know you have tons of really, really exciting information to share about your recent licensing deal. So let's just jump right in. Maybe if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from, and anything you want to share is great.
Okay, well, I'm originally from Michigan, but I currently am living in the Netherlands. I've actually been living here for about 34 years, and that's kind of a nice segue into how did this all get started? Well, should I go right
Yeah.
into it? Okay.
Yeah, let's start from the beginning. I mean, what inspired you to create your product, and what were some of your biggest doubts and fears you had right when you were first starting out?
Yeah, well, okay. So what inspired the product? Like I said, I live here in the Netherlands. Everything is just much smaller scale here. And my kitchen's small. My kitchen workspace is small. My sink is small. I have no garbage disposal, no dishwasher. There's no space for one. So every single day, multiple times a day, I'm doing dishes. So I guess the idea came out of necessity. Just after all these years, kind of got tired of using my hand to scoop out food scraps out of my sink, or I actually got to a point where I would take the drain strainer and kind of try to use that to scoop food scraps out. And, one day I had a moment, and my son, who's really great with prototyping and he's very technical and he has a 3D printer and everything. And one day I just had this moment and I looked at him and I said, okay, can you make something for me? Like, can you make me like a scooping type device that can go onto this drain strainer so I can scoop the food scraps out of the sink without having to use my hands, without having to try to use, the drain strainer? He's like, oh yeah, this will be fun. He just dug his heels right in and said, let's do this. This is going to be fun. So we prototyped a few designs and just to get the idea. And then we came up with a design that I was really happy with. It was just, easy to use. It was ergonomic. It looked nice. It was something I wanted to be able to keep in my sink at all times. So I thought it has to kind of look good too. And so he made it for me and we both kind of went like, wow. And he said, Mom, this is a really good idea. Like, I think a lot of other people would really like to use this. You should get it manufactured, market it. You should sell this. And okay. So Scott, this is where the doubts came in, because my first reaction is no way. I know myself. It would be fun for like a hot minute. And then it would just be a headache. Like, no, I don't want to do the marketing. I don't want to find a manufacturer. I don't want to do all the shipping and dealing with clients and all that kind of stuff. So my first thought was like, no, I can't do this. I can't do this on my own. So that was when the first big doubt crept in.
Hmm.
So, well, the seed had been planted. Because a couple days later, my son came back to me and kind of said, because he saw me, I was using it multiple times daily. And he said, Mom, if you don't want to do it yourself, he said, have you ever considered licensing? I was like, well, no, not really. So I thought, okay, let me look into this. And, so one day I had some time from, my normal work. And I thought, I'm just going to kind of look around online a bit and just see what's all out there.
Yeah.
And wow, to put it lightly, I was overwhelmed. I mean, overwhelmed. Just all the information that's out there, all the things you need to know. I mean, actually, even just like the acronyms, the lingo was
Hmm.
already overwhelming to me. I mean, all I saw were, like PPAs and PODs and POCs. And, I just went on and I'm like, well, I don't even speak this, this language. This is all just too much for me. And I was really at the point of like, this just isn't for me. I wouldn't even know where to start.
Hmm.
And then I found out that, hey, there are programs like Inventor's Edge that guide you along. They have coaches. So I thought, So that was my first big doubt was I can't do this on my own.
Hmm.
But then that shifted when I realized, well, wait, maybe if someone helps me along the way a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we worked together at Inventor. I was a coach there for 8 years. It was a great company, great program. And that's how we met. Since then, I branched off and started Inventor's Edge. But the coaching that we did was with Inventor. And I'm so glad that you did some research and you found a good company to work with and that you found the help that you needed because it is overwhelming. It's really, you're in this ocean and there's a lot of information and like, who do you trust? Where do you go? What do you do? And there's a lot of invention submission companies that you can spend a lot of money and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But we'll get into that kind of the empowerment piece of it.
Yeah.
And I know,
Yeah.
when we were coaching, I know you mentioned that coaching played a big role in your journey. I guess I'd love to know, like, what were some of the most impactful strategies or insights you gained that really helped you move forward?
Yeah. I think for me the big thing, Scott, with coaching, because like I said, I was so overwhelmed that it's kind of like you're just in the middle of a forest and you just really don't know which way to go, or you think you need to go a certain way. And then, you're just like, okay, I don't know any of this. And then the great thing about coaching, what helped me a lot is because I tend to be the kind of person, my whole approach to pretty much every aspect of my life is just go with the flow. I just kind of see what happens. I'm not saying I never plan things or, I can't create a strategy or anything, but I tend to be that kind of person. So for me, coaching was just invaluable as far as it kept me on track. Like Scott, there were so many times where, I was going through the licensing, the step by step program. It was 10 steps. You learn a lot of stuff and it's all interesting and everything, but it's kind of like, again, if you don't have a coach to sort of hold you accountable, or if you don't have, like we had in the beginning, we had our weekly sessions, and then some parts of the process took a little bit longer. So then maybe there'd be like a 2 week thing. But the point is we had regular sessions.
Hmm.
So where coaching really helped me, gave me a lot of insight into like, how do I navigate this was I knew that if I had been left to my own devices, if I hadn't had a coach, if I hadn't had you helping me along, I probably would have just at various parts of the process just kind of said like, okay, you know what? Nah, this doesn't look
Hmm.
like any fun. I'm not going to go through it, or I can't do this. It made me simply just not having the confidence, because that was a big thing for me, was the confidence. I was going into whole new territory by doing this. And so I found that many times along the way, Scott, you as my coach, when I would start to stray, or if I was going with the flow a little too much and kind of, going down that river, dilly-dallying, looking at the sites, you'd kind of reel it in. You'd throw out that helpline like, okay, Tara, now let's continue with the next step, or stuff like that. And that did really help me. It really kept me on focus. And that's important. That's a great thing about coaching for me.
Yeah, for all of us. I mean, there's so much power in having somebody giving you the guidance, giving you providing clarity, focus, accountability. I mean, all those things really matter a lot when
Yeah.
you're learning to do something you've never done, and it takes some knowledge and it takes some new skill set and all of those types of things. So yeah, that's you were such a fun student to coach because I liked that you were kind of a little bit all over the place and a little bit fearful of things and like a lot of ideas coming in, It's like, okay, I understand you. I understand you. You found your tribe here. So it was, yeah, for me
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
I do want to add on to that, Scott, because that is true. I got to say, it was a nice dynamic, and you did so many times. I never got the impression that you were necessarily forcing me into a certain direction or anything. You just kind of let me be me, but yet you kept me on track, and that's good because it's true. I'm a creative. I mean, this mind is always percolating, and
Mhm.
so it's true. Scott, case in point, perfect example. Remember when I was filing my PPA? Or there we go.
Mhm.
There's that acronym again. My provisional patent application, and everything that could have gone wrong during that process did. We had logged in. We were on the USPTO website. We're getting all ready to go, and then things weren't uploading. Image sizes were wrong, and I got extremely frazzled, bedazzled. I do remember that, and this was like a credit to you. And this is like a perfect example of good coaching because, again, if I had been on my own, I probably would have just, turned the computer off and, just ran for the hills kind of thing. And you were like, no, Tara, we'll get through this. Just hang in there here. Let's do this. Let's try that. And you stayed calm and guided me right through the process. And that was a glorious moment when we got that application finished. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that process, it's gotten a little better, but it can be diabolical almost. And
Yeah.
I
Severely.
remember being in your shoes, and like, oh my God, why isn't this 1,000 times easier? And yeah, it is frustrating. And I know the feeling of like, forget this. This sucks. This is just too much. I can't deal with it. Forget it. And then and then
Exactly.
just staying with it a little longer, coming back at it. But I think that's the power of coaching too, is having somebody that's like, hey, I've been there, done that. I know how you're feeling. I know this sucks. Here's some ideas. Let's try this. Let's just keep
Yep.
moving forward.
Yep.
And the whole process too of licensing, I mean, it can be overwhelming. You're dealing with multiple companies and figuring it all out. And especially when you're doing it the first time, like there's so much to know and so much to do. And I guess when you look at that process of really, dealing with, you had multiple companies interested. And I remember talking through that and you're like, what do I do? I got these guys, but then I got these guys, and which one's better? And these guys are bigger, but what timelines and like all that stuff. So what did you learn from that process? And I guess how did coaching help you through that process? Because that's where it gets a little intense. Like your adrenaline is going, and like, oh my God, I've two companies. You might have had even another one. There might have been three, but I know two that were very interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, it was crazy. Like again, when you have a go with the flow mentality, you just kind of don't put expectations on things. And I did not see that coming. I was just hoping that at the end of the day I could get a licensing deal. I mean, that was just my hope. And I thought, well, if it doesn't happen, I guess it wasn't meant to be kind of thing. But to have at one point three solid companies, vastly different companies showing interest, and then just because of the nature of my product, it was easier in the beginning to narrow. Well, it was easier for me at one point to take out the third company as far as my further considerations because the other two, yeah, definitely had more to do with my kitchen products. So, and then it came down to those two companies. And what I absolutely did not see coming was how emotional it would be. Scott, this is where it goes back to coaching again. I was really deliberating. I don't know if you remember this, but I think it was easily 2 months, if not more. And I just didn't see that coming. And I, kept trying to remind myself, like, Tara, this is business. Just do the number crunching, look at the timelines, compare the licensing agreements, like stick to the fundamentals, the hard science of this. And I was kind of like a little disappointed in myself because I found myself getting like emotionally involved. I mean, the amount of brain space that went to considering all this, I didn't see that coming. And I was trying to find ways like, how can I create a win-win-win situation? Like, how can all three of us maybe, I don't know if you remember us when we talked about all
Oh
these
yeah.
things. And I was so kind of disappointed in myself. Like, I'm like, this is not what I've been studying. Everything about
Hmm.
studying licensing tells you when you go into this, you do this, and then you should, blah, blah, blah. And then that day I just kind of said, like, Scott, I really cannot decide. I feel really bad about this. I don't want to let anyone down, And I
Hmm.
remember you looked at me and you just went like, it can get pretty emotional, can't it? And I was like, yes. And you're like, Tara, that's okay. That's all part of it. And it was like all that doubt, all the insecurities, everything just kind of melted away at that moment for me because I thought, okay, I can do this just because I'm getting emotionally involved. You're basically telling me that's just a human trait. That's just part of it. Like, don't, beat yourself up over it if you're not always handling it as, hard businesswoman, like as you had hoped to. And that actually opened the door for me to being like, okay, Tara, it is okay to consider all things. I mean, not just all the numbers and the figures and the distributions and all that, but also think about like, these are people that you're going to potentially be, working with for a long time. And so that is important to have a good connection.
Hmm.
So, and what I learned a lot too, Scott, is companies, I had this thought that, it was all like hardcore all the time, and all these corporate people. But oh my gosh, I got to know some really nice people from just talking to different people from these different companies. And I did not see that coming either. And that was a really nice added bonus to licensing. It's been a lot of fun in that respect too.
Yeah, yeah, you touched on so many things there. It is about the relationships that you're building with these people within these companies. And then
Yeah.
you get to the point where, like you said, you don't want to let someone down by telling them, no, sorry, I'm going in a different direction. It feels like you're breaking up with them or something.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good analogy. I mean, I thought that many times myself. It's like, or I'm not telling the other company that I'm seriously considering this company. Is that kind of like cheating on someone? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, you're triple dating.
yeah, yeah,
That's the game. And I think we might have talked about that right at the beginning. What I want to wish upon you, because you would ask, well, what if I have multiple companies interested? It's like, I want to wish that upon you now because it's such a great position to be in. And it's proof that you have a great product that's marketable that people want. And it's proof that you have a winner there. It's just business at the end of the day, right? You gotta let the other two, in this case, let the other two go. And there's sort of this idea, well, they're going to be like crying their eyes out or something, because
yeah.
I let them
That's true.
down, like I failed them in some way. And it's not, it is business. That's not the case. But I know that those feelings are very real.
It's kind of like going back to the dating analogy. They're probably thinking like, yeah, okay, it was fun, but there's another attractive prospect, and they just move on. And you're thinking you've crushed their world, and it's like,
Yeah, fun while it lasted. Oh, look over there.
No, but I mean, I'm sitting here all like with my sob story. Oh, I deliberated for 2 months and I lost sleep and stuff. But it's like, let's face it, at the end of the day, that
Yeah,
is a luxury problem, isn't it? To have
yeah,
multiple interests. I mean, that gave me a lot of confidence too. Thinking like it affected how I proceeded, how I negotiated, and a lot of things because it was kind of nice knowing I've got a backup plan just in
yeah,
case, so that gave me some leverage there. So it is a nice position to be in. And yeah, and I'm hoping, I mean, I can say that the product works very well because, like I said, I use it multiple times daily. But the hope at the end of the day is, even after all this, is that a lot of other people can also benefit from the product. And, we
yeah.
see how it does on the market.
Yeah, yeah, that's the whole thing. I think for so many of us, we have these ideas, we have this creativity that's bubbling out of us, and we just want other people to benefit from the idea.
Yeah.
I find more people, that's a bigger motivating factor than I want to make a bazillion dollars from this. It's like I want to help the world, I want to contribute something, I want to be meaningful and improve the lives of other people in some way.
Yes.
And you've definitely done that.
Yeah.
It
That's a
was
really good point, Scott, because again, it's not just about crunching the numbers. It's not just about the distribution channels and things. When you're considering going into licensing with a company, the company that I ultimately chose is Joe Bar International. What I like about them, is they're like a family kind of company,
Yeah.
In our interactions, they always respond right away. They're personable. They stand behind their word. When they say they're going to do something, they do it. They take initiative. But even things like what kind of plastic are they going to use to create this product and stuff? I was thinking I wanted it to be more of a sustainable product, at least that can be used for a long period of time, things like that. And those are all considerations that go into it. Again, it's not just, oh, which company's bigger, which company can make me, millions kind of thing. No, I mean, it's like, let's just get a sustainable product out there that is going to help a lot of people, make a lot of people's lives easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a good point because it is about the fit. It's like what am I looking for as the creator, as the inventor of the product? Which company can deliver that as long as, all the other things line up as well. So at the end of the day, it is about the fit. And I feel like you found a great company to license the product, done a great job with the manufacturing, the packaging looks amazing, the product looks amazing. And it was so fun to see it at the Inspired Home Show in Chicago. I was seeking them out. I'm like, oh, I want to go see if Tara's product is here, and yeah, it was so cool to see that because for me, I like all the validation because a lot of this, I think there's probably a lot of inventors, especially when they're starting out, it all kind of feels like it's pie in the sky. Like, is that real? I know some people have success, but is it going to be real for me? Can I actually do this? And I wonder, like, for you to reach that milestone, how did that feel? Like having that validation, like it's real. They're at these trade shows and my product's there. What was that feeling like for you?
Yeah, it was a kick. Yeah, I mean, well, even like, with my son, who was like started out with me from the very first prototyping, me cutting, with things out of cardboard and stuff and saying, okay, can you make something from this, um, and then when I showed him, because I agree, I was really happy with the packaging. And when I showed it to him, he was like, wow. He said, this is fun, to see that it's alive, like it exists now. It
Yeah.
went from this idea, this kind of spur of the moment idea one day, and then everything that happened in between. And then all of a sudden there's this product. So I was already thrilled with that. But then, Scott, this whole thing about the Inspired Home Show, and I think it's awesome that you were there and you could check it out and everything. But the funny thing is, again, here's this go with the flow mentality. I try not to control things too much and just try not to put too many expectations on things and just see what the universe brings kind of thing. And here we go. I am realizing now that we're a couple weeks after the fact, what a big deal that was that this product ended up there. But I have to be honest, I had zero to do with that. That was all Joe Bar. Basically Shelby, the product director there, the one I've been in touch with since day one, she had mentioned to me that they were expecting the shipment to come in by March and whatever. And I remember you had said to me like, oh, I bet they're getting ready for the trade show, the big trade show in Chicago. And I was like, okay, yeah, cool, because I'm new to the game, so I don't know these things. And
Yeah.
yeah. And now
It's cool.
yeah, that Joe Bar just did that they arranged it, that they promoted it. I mean, that's great stuff. And I just got an email last week too that there are, companies that are interested and they've put in orders,
Yeah. Good.
but it's looks like it's going to be quite a while yet though, like several months before it's actually, at the retailers. But in the meantime, Joe Bar is going to be setting up their Handy Gourmet line, which is what
Mm.
the Easy Scoop, what my product is called, is part of the Handy Gourmet line, and that they're setting it up now as we speak. So hopefully by the time this podcast is launched, the product will be launched on Amazon. So they're going to start with that. So that's going to be the next step for the product, and which I think is a great step. I mean, I think Amazon's a nice platform to start from. I think it's a great way
Oh, yeah.
to gauge interest and to get feedback. And so I'm quite excited about the next step.
That's so cool. Yeah. And you can go on and, go look at the listing and look at the reviews. And that's what I know with SWAT and Scoop for me. It was like reading the reviews, it warms your heart. Like, wow, people are really loving this product. You might get a couple of haters here and there, but that's just like welcome to putting your product out into the world. But yeah, Amazon is the biggest marketplace. I wanted to ask too about like your son. I think that is such a cool thing and such a validating thing for him to see his mom have this idea, cut out these cardboard things, play around with it in the sink. And then he's like, yeah, I can 3D print that, no problem. And helping you in that product development process. But then it doesn't end there. It's not like, well, we tried and now, it didn't get into that staticky, you weren't stuck there. You took it all the way. What was that like for you as a mom to see him see you bring it to market? And then there it is. It's out in the world.
Oh yeah, Scott, that's a really good question. An impromptu one, but I like it
Yeah,
because
sorry.
no, that's awesome because you know what? That has been kind of a big thing. So my son is 26 years old. He's an adult. He's got his own life. He does, and I've always been, the mom. Yeah. I mean, it's great. I love being a mom and stuff. And, that's, I put a lot of energy into that stuff, but it's true. He said to me, Mom, I'm really proud of you. Yeah, I gotta say, my mom heart went, you know,
Of course.
because
Yeah.
it's like, it made me feel good to think, hey, yeah, actually both my boys, they see me in a little bit different light, because it's interesting. My two sons are just as diverse as the two companies I dealt with. They couldn't be more different, but it's great because my one son, he's very technical. He was helping me with the prototyping, all that kind of stuff. And then my other son helped me with the promotional video, and he did like the sound design and stuff for that because he's the creative, more sort of musical and visual person and stuff. And that was another takeaway that I didn't see coming going into this. I thought, oh, I'll be on my lone ship, I'm going to do this on my own. But I realized, wow, it became like kind of a family thing. Like I was working with my boys, and we kind of made it happen together. So that was definitely an added bonus to all of this. But yeah, to go from concept, from just idea to something that's tangible, and the fact that it can become a tangible thing for a lot of other people too, that is a really nice feeling, I gotta say.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the dream as inventors to see their idea out in the wild, right? Bring it to life, bring it to
Yeah.
market, get it out there. It's such a powerful thing. And I think that's cool that you didn't have to do the lone wolf thing because a lot of inventors, we feel like lone wolves. We're out there and we have this resourcefulness, like we can white knuckle it, we can grind through the storm and get to where but the reality is we don't have to do it alone. There's resources, there's coaching, but also as a family, that's such a really cool thing that both of them were involved. And I know, my whole family, our girls and my wife, Beth, with SWAT and Scoop, they were in it from the beginning. So it's such a cool feeling. I think it's something that even like when I coach husband and wife, or life partners or whatever, like two people that are working on something together, it's such a powerful thing because they have the accountability of me with them, but also them with each other. And
Yeah,
like,
for sure. I mean, my husband Paul and I, we had that too. It was like I was always bouncing stuff off him, like through this whole process. Like,
mhm.
he was right there as I'm going through all these deliberations, and he's just a more sort of pragmatic, linear thinking kind of dude, and I'm like all
Yeah,
emotional, my thoughts and craving. And he would just, every now and then he'd be like, well, Tara, consider this. And what about, and it was, so I was, he was kind of like my at home coach when you weren't coaching me kind of thing. But yeah, no, definitely all the people that are involved in the process. And I think it's important to be open for that too. I read the book by Stephen Key, and One Simple Idea. And he talked about how important it is when you're going into licensing and things to just have an open mind, just have an open mindset. Don't,
yeah,
some inventors tend to like, this is my product and this is how it has to be. And it can't be any other way. And they're quite staunch. But I think a lot of times that closes doors on you. And I think when you're just open also to the input of family and friends and, what your coach is saying and stuff like that, I think it just helps you to just kind of, yeah, let it go, let it flow, see what comes of it all. And I just feel like by having that attitude for me, it just seemed like a lot of doors just opened in unexpected places that I just didn't see coming. That, like, Scott, here we are, this podcast, case in point.
hmm,
Everyone who
yeah,
knows me, you included, remember you trying to get me onto LinkedIn? And I'm like, Scott, I hate social media. I'm terrible at it. I'm a phobe, but no, I can't do it. who would have thought? But that just goes to show how trust builds up between coach and student, because how you
Yeah.
managed to get me on this podcast is no small feat. I just got to say, but
Man,
here we
it
are,
really is.
it's the power
With
of
that in mind, I
human
was curious,
connectedness
like
and
now that
coaching.
you've been
Yeah.
through the experience and you've had all of these things and these fears that you've overcome and kind of worked through, what would be one thing that you wished you would have known earlier that could help other inventors on their path to some success?
Well, I think the big thing is the time. Like everything just takes a lot of time. Like in my experience, it felt like everything took at least 5 times longer than I thought it would. And if I had known that going into it, I think I would have just been more, just kind of patient and laid back about things. But there were a couple times where things happened that took so long that I was really, here we go again, but doubting myself again. And I could feel my confidence going down because, like, for example, once we started the outreach, which was also daunting, I bit the bullet and I went into it and I started contacting these companies. And, I kind of had this mindset, like I was naive, but I was thinking, oh, I'll call a company, and of course they pick up on the first ring, and hey, Bob, I've got this great idea, and they're like, Tara, great, let's do this, and everything just happens in a couple months' time. You're going into a store, and hey, there it is. Well, now I know the reality is very different. And I remember specifically after I started the outreach, I did my blitz. I was really excited and I was thinking, oh, this is going to be great. I'll be getting all kinds of phone calls and emails and stuff. And it got really quiet. And for like a week and a half, and I'm thinking, oh my, then you start thinking, wait a minute, maybe my product sucks. Like maybe in my delusional brain, I was the only one that thought it was really a great idea, and everyone else was just being nice, and supporting me. And then you said to me, you gave this analogy. You were like, yeah, it's kind of like, the studies so far, you're learning all this stuff about licensing and it's all exciting. And you're creating sell sheets and, you're filing patent applications and things. And it's like being in the city and all this energy is going on and all this hustle and bustle. And then all of a sudden you start the outreach and it's like, and you go outside the city limits and on a, you're like,
Yeah.
and then it's like you're on a country road and it's dark and there are no signs anymore. And, and I was like, yeah, Scott, that's exactly what's happening. You're like, Tara, it's okay. That is just the name of the game. And then again, there's the power of coaching. It's like, I probably would have given up at that point had I been on my own. I would have thought, well, I did this program. Everything looks good on paper. I studied everything. I did all that. But now here we are.
Hmm.
It gets down to it and no one's responding to me. I would have thought I had failed. I really would have.
'Cause a lot of new people get into this and they're thinking, oh, I'm gonna reach out to companies and the first few are gonna love it and they're gonna have it made and I'm gonna have royalty checks within 60 days. It's like you have to manage expectations here. This is a longer process. This is not get rich quick stuff. But it's a great model because you keep putting products into the pipeline and things come out,
Yeah.
the other end. I wanted to ask too, how has the model of providing inventors, through guiding, teaching, coaching, helped you take control of your own success as an inventor, rather than relying on, let's say, a company to do everything for you? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I think that's the huge thing because, like you said, a lot of times we,
Yeah,
sort of creative types, inventors, it's not just one idea. It's not a one off thing. I mean, we've got
yeah.
logbooks filled with ideas and variations on the theme, and, it just goes on and on. So when I first
Hmm.
started looking into it, I did indeed see that there are
Yeah.
companies that, for a fee, but it's not necessarily cheap, but they'll say like, hey, give us this amount of money and we'll do everything for you. You just give us your idea and, we'll hopefully, no guarantees, but we'll hopefully bring it to market. Um, yeah, maybe that works for some people that maybe they do just have like a one-off idea or they're just simply too busy. They don't want to go into product development and licensing themselves. So they think like, every time I get a good idea, I'll just hire someone to do this for me kind of thing. But I think in general, I think what works really great, with a program that offers the scope, like the information that's all out there, the coaching programs, you know, learning licensing, that empowers you and that enables you to be able to do it yourself down the road. Like you said to me after the licensing deal went through, you said like, wow, Tara, great, congratulations. And you're like, and from now on, it's just rinse and repeat, like you've learned what you've learned, you know what you need to know now. And I mean, I'm still a work in progress. I'm not saying that I know it all yet, but I do at least I've got the foundation, I've got the structure now where I know what I need to do. And I know I have a better understanding now, more realistic understanding of what to expect with a lot of parts of the process. So I think that's what's really important, about like what you're doing and things, because it's not just about informing. Um, it's also about coaching, and enabling. I feel like, you know, in our society, so many things are kind of done for us and with technology and everything. And you know it feels autonomous a lot of times, but what I love about coaching is it just brings that human element back into things, because there is something about, a lot of times my biggest insights came from just saying it out loud to you. Like I would just verbalize a concern I had or a question or things that I had deliberated about for hours on end, lying awake at night and I didn't get anywhere. And then the next day or whatever, I would say it to you. And then just hearing it, like saying it out loud, hearing it come out of my own mouth, kind of like, wait a minute, it kind of gives yourself, your own answer, or at least, and then you would give me feedback and stuff. And it's like, that's the power, yeah, of just human connection and the coaching and stuff. And it's just knowing that you've just got someone next to you, guiding you along the way, keeping you on track, kind of giving you that little nudge when you need it, or holding your hand when you're feeling, not so strong that day, kind of thing. That that transcends like all other parts of licensing, I think. Like once you've learned the bones of it, the facts and stuff. But it's about, yeah, that element that gave me the push through. Like that's what took me from that kind of nervous person in the beginning with all this self-doubt and everything to saying, wait a minute, you know what? I think I can do this. That's a huge statement if you think about it.
Well,
That's what
thank you.
coaching is
It's
doing.
something I love, coaching people. And Inventor's Edge, even the name Inventors is about the person, rather than invent something, right? And for me, that's where the power lies, with this being my life work. The spark of the connections with other people is where the power really is. And like you said, sometimes it's just talking to someone that's actively listening and giving you feedback. It's like boom, boom, boom. It's almost like fireworks. Like, and on our coaching calls, it was so amazing to watch you. It was like, oh, there was another firework and another, like you're all these like
Yes.
realizations in real time. It was like, it's so amazing. It was great.
Well, I think it helps too, Scott, that you talked before about a person having to be a good match with the company or a good fit. But I think the same applies with coaching too. And I can thank Sylvia for that. She set me up with you after I made my first phone call and said like, okay, I need a map here. I think I know what I need to do, but how can we do it? She said, you know what? Let's do this. I'm going to set you up with our coach, Scott Putnam. So I was like, okay, let's do this, and I have noticed, like, I mean, we have laughed pretty hard about a lot of things, and it's true. We are. I just feel like we just are like-minded in a lot of ways. Actually, I'll make the point on your SWOT and scoop. I showed it to my son, and he's like, "Wow, that is a really good idea." He's like, "Mom." He's like, if Scott wouldn't have invented that, you probably would have, because that's typically you. You're always like, oh no, don't kill it. Don't kill it. Make sure you get it outside safely, And so it's just another example of that. Yeah, we're just like-minded. But having said that, we're not totally alike in the sense that, like I said before, times when I kind of was a bit going off into the stratosphere, you would quickly be like, okay, Tara, focus. What's next? Like, can you have this for me? You were always giving me the action points. Like,
Yeah.
okay, we got action points, so when we meet next time, you should have done this, and that, whatever. Not that you were like this strict, school professor or anything, but it did definitely give me the parameters, the scope, and that motivates because you're not going to procrastinate so quickly when you know that someone's kind of depending on you to have your
Mm,
action points completed and stuff, and you're meeting up with them like next Wednesday kind of thing. And again, if you're on your own, you don't have a coach doing that, you're more apt to be like, it's just so busy right now, or I'm tired, or I don't feel like it. And then before you know it, weeks slip by. And so that's the great thing about having programs like
yeah.
this and
Yeah.
coaching.
And you make it coaching will pay for itself multiple times over with you not veering off into all these rabbit holes and spending money where you don't need to and all of that. Because it is about keeping you between the lines and staying focused and staying on track. And that's how you achieve results, which you're such a great example of that. I think that,
Yeah,
the
thanks. Yeah,
universe
I feel very,
irons things
very
out the way
lucky.
it's supposed to. And I really believe that things happen for a reason. And
Yeah,
it's always fun for me to
I
meet
agree.
new people that are, amazing people from all over the world, like you, that are just so incredible to work with. And so I appreciate you sharing everything. With that, we can wrap it up here. Any final thoughts for our Inventor's Edge listeners?
Yes, I would say when you go into licensing and you go in with this coaching program and everything, I think the best thing is to just be prepared that you're going to go outside your comfort zone. Um, and I don't mean just step outside casually. There are times where you literally feel flung way outside your comfort zone. But I saw on LinkedIn once, I'm kind of paraphrasing here. I can't remember how it was worded exactly, but it was something along the lines like, freedom and insight and inspiration, all those things are just outside the door of your comfort zone. And that is true. You just step out and then you realize, like, wow, there's so much out there beyond what you think you kind of need to know. So I think if you're just open for things and just open to learn and just open to finding out like what's all out there, what the possibilities are, and what the process might feel like, what the outcome might be, just see how it all goes and just have fun with it. Just stay positive, have a good attitude. Even with companies, like when they say no, it's not like, no, I don't like you, go away, never come back. It's like, no, but hey, we'd love to hear about your next idea. So keep doors open. Just stay comfortably outside your comfort zone and just know that this was also on LinkedIn. So it's good you got me onto LinkedIn, Scott, because I'm getting a lot of insights here. But I also saw on LinkedIn one time where a guy said, this whole thing with licensing and bringing a product to market, he said, it is quite simple, but it's not easy. And I thought, wow, that summed it up perfectly. So I would like to leave on that note. It is simple. It may not always be easy, but it's definitely worth.
That is awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. That is such a perfect crescendo for this podcast. Now that we got you on LinkedIn and you're using it, are you open to people reaching out to you on LinkedIn, or how can people, if they want to connect with you? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, LinkedIn, because that's actually the only social media platform I'm I'm on. But yeah, I mean, I love to get people's ideas, and I've just been amazed at the amount of support I've gotten so far from people excited about the product, asking
That's
about, when they can get
awesome.
their
Great.
hands
We'll
on it
have
and
the link
things.
to your
So
profile in
yeah,
the
no,
show
I'm
notes so
definitely
people
open for
can
it.
access it that way. Keep in mind, everybody, with Joe Bar and the Easy Scoop on Amazon coming soon. Yeah, hopefully people check out your product, and it is a fantastic product idea, which is why you had so much interest. It's been an honor and a privilege to have you on. It's so great to reconnect, and I'm so excited for your next product and your future as an inventor. So keep
Yeah,
going. You take good care.
to be continued. Thanks so much, Scott.
Thanks for tuning in to the Inventor's Edge podcast. I'm your host, Scott Putnam, and if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a review, and please share it with fellow inventors. Your next breakthrough could be just around the corner. For more tools, tips, and resources, visit us at inventors-edge.com. Until next time, invent with purpose, innovate with passion, and bring your ideas to life.